So I had a little bit of a tech glitch on the way down. One thing I noticed was that this map might be all for show. Like, I tried navigating, so basically what happened was my Apple CarPlay came undone for some weird, bizarre reason. It just said something with the cord, even though it does have wireless, so we'll try and set that up here in a minute. But yeah, it's plugged in and nothing comes up. It's very frustrating. But then, as a backup, I tried to navigate with the map, and you get this. So it's almost just like GM. Maybe, hopefully it's not a subscription, maybe just activation, but that is another kind of a cheap out thing, I feel. But overall, on the way down, it wasn't bad. I noticed some sort of feels like a little bit of a misfire when it's at idle, but we can talk through that when we get the full review later. So, day 2 of our Ford Expedition XLT, and I don't hate it, so that's a good way to start a video. And you know, it's not bad. I think it's actually it's a little bit easier to drive, I think, actually, than the Tahoes and the Suburban, so the GM offerings. I think all of this is a lot easier to navigate through. It's also a little bit more intuitive than on the GMs. I do like this PRND transmission selector better than the GMs. But yeah, let's go ahead and start her up. It's got that funny same bell that you had back in, I want to say, they had back in the early 2010s when they did that Ford Fusion big makeover from that kind of, you know, it wasn't a bad looking sedan, but they really did do a nice makeover. I think in 2012 it was, where they gave it that Aston Martin front grille. But for this Expedition, we do gotta get gas here, but it does, you know, you can see it actually needs an oil change too, so Ava's taken note. But right now we're at about 10,000 miles, so it's fairly new actually for this Expedition, and it's not bad. There's a couple things I did want to note out. We'll do our typical run through of the infotainment, what I liked, go through the drive modes, show some of the configurability there on the screen, and just kind of overall take on this Ford Expedition. So as you get into it, it's a fairly comfortable. It's easy to step up into. It has running boards on the outside. And what's nice about this XLT, and I don't know if this comes standard or not, it does have a nice power operated steering wheel, which is, you know, a nice little touch, especially in a it's not their luxury. It's not a Lincoln. It's not the titanium edition or anything. And also, one thing I did notice were these power pedals. So this is something Ford's been doing for a while, actually. So if you're a shorter driver, you can actually adjust the pedals to be closer to you. You can see them there moving back and forth. There's not a lot of mobility on those, but yeah, it does give you a little bit of, you know, extra configurability, extra little bit adjustment, you know, that you wouldn't get, you know, in another offering, you know, so more than you get just from adjusting the seat. So if you do have you know, fairly short legs, or you're just a shorter individual, that's a good option for you. What else here? You got your power folding, you know, rear seats, lift gate, your light controls. It is nice that it has automatic headlights. On a lot of these new vehicles, it is a little difficult sometimes to tell if you have your headlights on or not, because The interior lighting, you know, for your dash, like on old cars, you know, really wasn't backlit during the day, but now everything's pretty much backlit, so it looks like you might have your lights on, but in reality, you don't. And drivers will let you know. And then your parking brake, and that's pretty much it for it there. Nice little window controls here. You got your memory seats, lock button. I think this all looks, you know, pretty good, especially for like in a truck. It has this kind of leatherish material here. Overall, the things that you do touch are fairly, they're not bad, you know, especially for, again, this is just the XLT model. Steering wheel even too feels like, you know, fairly nice. And then, yeah, so overall, so that's getting over here to the steering wheel and the configurability on here. So you do have several settings, but not that many actually, and we'll get into one of my biggest pet peeves. You've seen my videos before, you can see that unfortunately this one does not have adaptive cruise control. It does have a collision alert, but again, great, at least I think it will stop. We'll go through the menu here in a bit, but there is, you know, it's to me just table stakes at the end of the day. When you can get it on a Toyota, or I believe even the Koreans offer it too, like on Hyundais and Kias, on their mid-size, even I think compact or small size SUVs even, where you get adaptive cruise control, you get a lane keep assist, and these other kind of safety suite things that keep you, they add safety to at the end of the day, and I think that's what's like important. And if you haven't driven with adaptive cruise control, once you do drive with it, you might think it's gimmicky at first, but there's no going back. It is very useful. It's very nice to, you know, if you do take your eyes off the road for that split second, knowing that the likelihood of plowing into something is not going to, you know, you're going to have a little bit of protection there. Granted, you should always keep your eyes on the road, but it does help with that sense. And, you know, just adding that extra layer of safety that really should just be standard these days. So we're coming back over here to the dash. So here you have nice physical dials for RPMs and speedometer, and this nice big digital center screen here. And we can go out a little bit, and so it's pretty fairly intuitive. We'll start here at vehicle info. We'll go and select through that. So what we have on the screen first is your power distribution. One thing I did not like too much though is that you always have to have something showing here, unless like someone in the comments can say, but if I just wanted this to have nothing on here, it won't let me do it. If I just want to see nothing, just maybe my dials here and that's it, I'm always having to see something here, which, okay, great, but like if I want more of a clean dash, a little bit less distraction going on, I can't get rid of that. So we'll go back here into vehicle info, power distribution. So you always have to click on something to have, you know, it there. Engine information, we've got 1% oil life, so this thing does need an oil change. Seatbelt warning, which is kind of nice, I guess, if the kids in the back aren't wearing their seatbelts, but also you can always kind of know which person's not. However, that's just a sensor and will probably go out and drive you nuts one day. What else is on here? Your tire pressure. So again, table stakes. It is nice to know the exact pressure, like, you know, at all 4 tires. And let's go ahead and go back. Towing. Let's see what this has. So on a lot of these larger SUVs, they do have these towing assistants and towing aids. So what's that do? I don't tow trucks. I mean, I don't tow trailers. I don't tow trucks either, but that is a nice thing on these bigger trucks, because it's not easy towing a trailer. Like, I've done it a couple times, and have any kind of aid to help you out definitely is a nice little benefit that they do offer now on these larger full-size SUVs and trucks. We'll go ahead and scroll through the rest of the menu. So navigation. What's nice here is that with the Apple CarPlay or whatever is going on with your map, it will show directions here on this screen. One thing like I do on my 4Runner, I wish it did, was it would show when you're in Apple CarPlay, your actual directions here in that little center screen. It will show on the main navigation directions, but not the Apple CarPlay directions on that screen. Here in the Ford it does, which is a nice feature. But as I mentioned earlier today, so here I thought that Ford was so nice giving you this map. And while, yes, it is so nice, actually, you have a map, it tells you where you're at, but all of this is disabled. It is so ridiculous to me that, and maybe, hopefully it doesn't require like a subscription, a monetary subscription to actually activate all this, but just give it to people. Like, it's, and I get, like, you know, on my 4Runner, I think it's actually like, because it's a premium, maybe it was an add-on service and that's like why it's included. Works great, love it. But it's just so nickel and diming people that I don't understand. Like, you, at least you can see where you're at. You do get a map on this XLT, but it's not functional. You can't, like, all you can do is basically just see where you're at, which is, you know, kind of just the old school way you can navigate, you know, how you would with just a physical map. But it doesn't, you can't navigate. You know, you can't put in a destination unless you activate that subscription service. So a little bit of a frustration with that. So we'll back out of navigation here on your center screen controls. Phone, you know, basic phone settings will show basically like your calls, you know, your missed calls, outgoing calls, all that fun stuff. Audio will show what's been playing. Also, you can switch between, like, you know, your different sources there. And then what does settings do? So you can configure the gauges. So you can show selectable, what's that? Oh, that's kind of fun. So you can actually kind of clean up the screen up a little bit. But with those selectable gauges, you can add, so in that left gauge, so right now it has your oil temperature, I believe. So you can change it actually to turbo boost, or oil pressure, sorry. So if you want to have your turbo boost there, because this is a twin turbo, V6, you can leave that there. So we'll leave that there. Let's go ahead and hit back. And on the right, instead of seeing your coolant or your transmission oil temperature, you could change that to your oil pressure if you wanted to. So if you're pulling a trailer or something, maybe like this transmission oil temperature, if you're going up in a bunch of hills or mountains or something, you know, transmission, you know, can heat up a bit, and that is a good thing. One other thing I did want to make of note is that on these newer Fords, they are a 10-speed transmission, and they definitely don't let you forget that there. So when you do go into drive, it will list out all the gears for the, you know, and select and highlight which gear you're actually in. So we're in park, or we just selected it to drive, so it's going to start out in first. I did want to test something real quick. So if we go through the different drive modes, so let's do that real quick. So here on drive modes, let's see. So we have eco. There is a sport. I didn't know there was a sport. And I guess that's just at the 4 automatic. So I will go over that real quick. So here you have a nice, oh, there's no too low. That's funny. So 2 high, 4 automatic, and then 4 high, but no 4 low. That's interesting. I would think that, you know, being this a kind of a truck frame on body on frame SUV, that would have a 4 low. So for people who, you know, might live, you know, off the beaten path or something, that might be something worth considering. That, you know, you're not, at least in this XLT, it does have 4-wheel drive, but it doesn't have a 4 low, so no low speed transfer case. It does have the 4 high and 4 automatic, but, you know, you might end up getting yourself stuck. So going to those drive modes again. So we have that sport. We also have trailer tow haul. And what I was trying to see is actually if that transmission would, like, you know, start in a different, other than first. Maybe it does it when we go over here. So we'll go to the right, sport, eco, normal mode. which is just going to be your regular 2-wheel drive. Slippery. So it's going to go ahead and throw it in 4 automatic. It shows you right there, which is nice to let you know like which transmission option you're in. And then sand. What else is there? Mud ruts. So again, what's odd to me is that it never did, change from starting in first. Typically like, they would start, especially like in like slippery, like in like in the ice and snow, you wouldn't typically like want all that torque available in first, but oh well. But then you do have this option here on your rotary selector knob. So instead of having a big gear shifter here or something up here like you have like on the GMs, or actually now it's here with the button selectors, you have this rotary, which actually I kind of like. I think this is pretty intuitive. You can go here and hit manual, and you can go ahead and select. You can start off in a first or a second gear, and then you can sit here and adjust the gears as you're going along and have a little bit more control of your vehicle with those manual gear selections there. So we'll go ahead and go back to park. So super simple, nice and easy. We're still in 4.8, so I don't want to be in that. We'll go ahead and go to back here to normal, and you can see it went ahead and shifted into 2 high, so now we're just back in 2-wheel drive mode. And yeah, it's pretty much it for, we'll leave those gauges as is. We'll go back here. Are there any more settings? Trip fuel. What is it? Kind of gas mileage does this thing get? 17.1. It's not too bad for such a big truck. Actually, does a little bit better than my 4Runner does, which is a little bit smaller and doesn't have those twin turbos either. But I don't want to look at that the whole time. Don't want to look at that either. That's kind of the problem I do feel like with having this show the whole time. I just don't want to stare at this all the time. And I cannot figure out what's my view do. It's probably some sort of configuration. So we'll leave it at that for the front. Going over here, we'll quickly go through all these settings. So typical audio, you have Apple CarPlay, that navigation again, audio source, so pretty intuitive. Apps, CarPlay, Android Auto, and there's a bunch of other little apps, Find mobile apps. No, we don't want to do that. It's going to take too long. And then your settings, so phone list, sync navigation, it's Ford's own navigation system. Get it close. Sound will take you through how to adjust like the audio settings, vehicle. So basically you have like different settings here, like, for idling, and you can, set that to turn off after 30 minutes, let you know if you left your kids in the back, let you know if you left your keys in the car. Easy entry exit, what does that do? So basically that's kind of cool. So it will adjust the seat front or back to help you get into the car easier. So probably I'm imagining moving the seat back, so it's a little bit easier to get in and out if you have that selected. Alarm system. So just some other settings there. On the outside, I'll go ahead and put that like as a little image there. It's so funny to me that they still have that exterior numerical keypad to actually as a code to get in and out of the car. So Ford has been doing that, I think, since the 80s, and it's just so funny that they've actually kept that around. So it's one of the few little kind of like Easter eggy things that like have been just around forever. What else? So it's pretty, and then I think I showed you ambient lighting last night. Features. So your owner's manual, that's kind of cool. Actually, that's in here on the screen. However, that really won't help you too much if your vehicle's dead. So hopefully this thing does have like a physical owner's manual. This is not just it. You can't just rely on screens for everything. So hopefully there is like a physical book that does come with these things. It is kind of nice so to do a quick search with a digital solution, but also I hope there is like a nice physical book that does come with this. Getting back, we'll go ahead and just leave this here on navigation. One thing I really do like too about the Ford's system is that while some of the climate controls are here on the main screen, it is nice that you do have physical knobs and buttons here, and it is redundant. So you see 70 there for the passenger, and as you adjust it down, 66 it shows up there. However, for your ventilation control, it's only activated so you can press it, but then to adjust the airflow, it's going to come up here on the screen. So again, no redundancy there. So hopefully if this ever went out, the air is going where you want it. What is nice though too is that you still have physical buttons here for your for your windshield defroster and rear defroster. So if this were to go out, you could still at least see where you're going and get it to the dealer to hopefully get that fixed and not rob you too much. It's still nice to have physical buttons and knobs for your audio control and your volume. So I do enjoy that we still have those physical buttons. You have your auto start stop. I always turn that off. It drives me nuts when it just turns off when you're at a stop sign and then turns back on. There's always a little bit of hesitation. And speaking of hesitation, so this one only has about 10,000, 130 miles on it now, but there's a slight, again, I felt this, and hopefully it's not just me, but there's a slight little misfire I feel going on. And then also one thing I did notice is in between gears, I think especially on fourth, maybe in fifth, there's a little bit of lurching that goes on. So let me know in the comments if you guys have ever felt any issues with these 10-speed automatics from Ford and any kind of lurching and kind of can't find the gear type of thing. But just, for a vehicle only has 10,000 miles on it, that's just something I did want to make of note and call that out. And so back to over here, you have your hazards, traction control on and off, and then you have a hill descent control, it looks like, for here. So typically when you're going off road, that's what that would be for. It may be for in mountains too. Didn't try that on this short little trip today, but we'll go and turn that off. But basically it helps you control the speed, so you don't have to rely on your input of the brake as much. It will keep a very slow, constant speed for you when you are going down very steep or slippery downhill paths. So going around the interior, again, as I mentioned, this is the XLT. This is a standard wheelbase, so it's still a very big vehicle. Has a third row back there. Nice, comfortable leather-ish, maybe seats. There's still some plastic, fantastic in here, but huge glove box, place to put your pens. That's kind of cool. Nice little sliding tray there. This is a nice-ish material. It's kind of, it's not that nice actually. It's kind of vinyl-y. But the things you touch, this is a rubberized kind of material, so it's not very hard plastic. Down here you got some hard plastic. This isn't terrible, but you can see here, you can see a little bit of fingerprinting going on. So any type of shiny surface, you're going to have fingerprinting going on, which it is what it is, especially when you just have touch screens here. And there isn't a rotary knob to control anything here on the screen. It is only all touch screen. Personally, I prefer to actually have a knob here to actually control the things, kind of like on an iDrive or even on a Mercedes, where you have the thumb kind of control now on your steering wheel. Before they had an actual knob to control things. So we'll go ahead right now, take a look underneath the hood. So this, to see that twin turbo V6. Hood, twin turbo V6, nice and quiet, cooling, battery, it's an engine, lots of little wires, no covers, but there is all
mechanicals.
Stepping back inside, a little Easter egg here, thing that Ford likes to do. So you'll find these like little fun little graphics here and there throughout Ford vehicles, and even other manufacturers do it kind of too. Just kind of fun. Makes it not so businessy and serious. And yeah, that's my quick take on this Ford Expedition. Would I buy it? Maybe. I think honestly that twin turbo V6, I haven't heard too many issues. Like I think mainly with Ford you hear a lot of issues on that Triton 3-valve V8, but on these twin turbo V6s I haven't seen too many issues come out there. Let me know in the comments. I could be totally wrong on that, but for me in general though, anything that has extra parts means extra maintenance. So if they could get their V8 right, so maybe, I don't know, have to check and see if you can get that 5-liter V8 instead, which might be a better option as far as like long-term maintenance, because at the end of the day a turbo is going to go out eventually, and you have 2 of them on here, so that is something to think about. And then, like as I mentioned, there is a little bit of hesitation and misfire going on, so I think it's the jury's out on this. If I had to pull something, would I choose this or the Tahoe? We'll see who gives me the better incentive, I guess. At least with the Tahoe, you can still get a V8, but I like all of this here better. And this is like personal preference, which again, a lot of this comes down to personal preference, because you're the one who's going to be paying for it and driving it day in and day out. And at the end of the day, you have to like it. So what's this do? Oh, that's kind of fun. Little glove box there. So that's pretty much the best advice I could give. I think right now too, full-size trucks and SUVs in the United States are way, way overpriced. They're having a little bit of a reckoning, I think, with that now. But yeah, like if you can get a good deal on a lease, if you have to buy new or pick up a nice certified pre-owned, it could be a decent option, especially again if you have to pull something. It doesn't drive nearly as big as like you would think it is. Actually, I feel it drives a little bit smaller than the GMs. One thing though, I would say you have to get this upgraded. This screen here is this looks bad for how big this screen is. So it's definitely not HD. You can still, it's functional. You have a lot of like parking sensors there, but the resolution for how big this screen is, the GM, at least like the ones that I'd run at the Denali, which, that'd be more, I guess, like a titanium package on this or a platinum package. But this is really, really looking old. So I would see if you can get like more of an upgraded, rear parking sensing screen, and then maybe, yeah, it could be actually a good option for you overall. So that is going to wrap it up for the Ford Expedition. Let's see what we get in the next one. So lastly, I will say, after wrapping up this review, that sport mode actually in this Ford Expedition actually really does change the whole driving dynamic. It's actually pretty nice. It locks it into 4 automatic, so it does really give it a lot more grunt. It makes it a lot more engaging to drive. So out of like the majority of the vehicles I've driven, the sport mode is actually not too bad. Let's go and see if there was any kind of impact to fuel economy. So go here in the menu, trip fuel, back. So 17.1. So granted, that's highway driving for about 40 miles, I guess, but yeah, not too bad. So if you do end up getting a Ford Expedition, I recommend having a little fun, putting it there in that sport mode, and it's a lot more entertaining vehicle to drive. Other than that, that's going to wrap it up for this Ford Expedition, and we will see you in the next one.